Hey gang, what's going on? Today I want to talk to you about the hip hinge. Now, the hip hinge is one of the main 6 movements. And it's one of the movements that as coaches, we really hammer home with our clients because as soon as you get the hip hinge down, everything else becomes a whole lot easier. Hip hinge is involved in things like deadlifting, stiff-legged deadlifting, bent over rows, ballistic movements like kettlebell swings or any kind of kettlebell clean and press and things like that that involves a swing. It's extremely important for athletes out there because just about every athletic sport, you are in this kind of ready position, hip hinge position, whether you're a tennis player waiting for the serve, you're a golfer that gets into that hip hinge position, you're a basketball player on defense, you're a linebacker in football. The hip hinge is crucial for athletic prowess. So we want to make sure that we are coaching this correctly. When you're doing it within your exercises, you want to make sure you are performing them correctly as well. Okay, so let's get to it. All right, crew, so let's get into this. So in order to teach the hip hinge properly, we've got to start from the ground up and really focusing on creating that tripod foot. So I talked about this in previous YouTube videos, but if you think of your foot, if this is your foot, pretend there's a pinky toe here, and creating that tripod foot, you're thinking about your first metatarsal, your fifth metatarsal, and the point behind your heel. Okay, creating that tripod. If you can stay balanced throughout your exercise by focusing on those 3 points, that'll create a nice active foot that is going to give you a great force transfer from the ground, but it's going to keep you balanced throughout the exercise, which is extremely important for the hip hinge. Okay, so what I normally do with my clientele in teaching the hip hinge is set them up in front of a wall. And we'll just set, with heels a few inches from the wall, double chin, rib cage pulled down, hands on the shoulders, balance in the tripod foot, and then I'm going to have them break at the hips and push their hips back and touch the wall, and then come forward. And as soon as they get good at that, we'll go out a little bit further, maintain the balance, touch the wall, come back up, tiny bit further, and so on and so forth until they get a great hip hinge. Now, for some clients, that's all we really need to do. Some of the things I see, though, is it's great that we're pushing back in the hips, and that teaches them to reach for the wall and loading the glutes and the hamstrings. Because a lot of times I see people do it, and if I don't use the wall, they'll just fold at the hip and kind of come on their toes. So they may maintain a flat back, double chin, rib cage down, but they're not loading their glutes and hamstrings by keeping their weight distributed or evenly distributed on their feet, right? So they're on their toes, and it's not really a glute and hamstring exercise until you get balance. Now I'm loading the glutes, now I'm loading the hamstrings, and you come back up. So I'll do this with clients. Sometimes, clients just need a little extra kind of core engagement. So I'll give them a kettlebell and do the exact same thing. What I'll have them do is place the kettlebell on their sternum. Their hands are actually squeezing the kettlebell to tighten up the shoulders, the chest, and the back. And then all the same rules apply. We'll just have them hinge at the hip, reach back with their butt, load the hamstrings, load the glutes, and then come forward. And same thing, step out a little bit, whoops, a little bit too far for me, and then back up, okay? So it gives them a good kind of feel, a sensory kind of aspect there, where the wall is, how to load the hamstrings, how to load the glutes, keep the core nice and tight with the kettlebell. Okay, so that's a great drill there as well. I've used the barbell with some pretty decent success as well, okay? But I find people can cheat this one pretty easily. Double chin, rib cage down, balance feet. Again, you're trying to load the hamstrings, trying to load the glutes and lower the bar, and then come back up. What I find sometimes from a side view again is just kind of like that hip hinge, or the hip hold, sorry, not the hinge. And again, they're kind of on their toes. So you really got to shoot them back a little bit and then come up so they load the glutes, they load the hamstrings. One of the drills I really love is using a band. And what we'll do is we'll put a band around their hips, have them step out a little bit, create that tripod or the active foot, double chin, rib cage pulled down, and then have them let the band pull their hips back, load the hamstrings, load the glutes, and then come back up. And again, my toes kind of came up a little bit there, but maintaining that tripod stance. and then back up. The reason why I like the band a little bit more is because as you come up, you're stretching the band more, so it takes a little bit more effort to do so. And it really teaches your clients how to like explosively come up out of that hip hinge standing nice and tall, okay? I like that a lot. It helps with, deadlifts, helps with kettlebell swings. For any Olympic lifters out there, obviously that helps too. However, if you can't do a hip hinge, you have no business doing Olympic lifting, so hopefully we're not doing that yet. Now, when it comes to single leg stiff-legged deadlift, I stole this from Tony Gentlecore, and I love this drill. This is a great drill. I think he stole it from somebody else, just to clarify things. But you'll put a foam roller here on your top of your foot, and you'll place your hand on top, and you're basically pulling up with your foot, pushing down with your hand, creating that tightness. Double chin, rib cage pulled down, 3 points of contact in my right foot. I'm going to hang onto the wall for balance. And I'm going to keep my toe pointing down to the ground, and I'll show you why here in a second. But from here, you're pushing with your hand, you're pushing that leg back, and you're creating this nice long spinal alignment, okay? And that's teaching your client basically how to stay long and extended. And this is great. Again, like my toe is pointing down, so my hips are parallel to the ground. I'm loading into my glute and my hamstring because I'm pushing back with my foot. It's a little bit more difficult to cheat this exercise by just by folding at the hip, because as soon as I start pushing my foot back, people will start to kind of get the idea of how to load their glute. Now, the key here is keeping that toe pointing down, okay, and not out, because when it comes out, when my toes are pointing you guys, my left glute is facing the wall, whereas it should be both hips, both glutes should be facing the ceiling, okay? That keeps the hips nice and parallel to the ground. All right, guys, those are just some of the things I use with my clientele to teach the hip hinge. Hope you guys got something from that. If you have, definitely check out my YouTube videos, NathaneJackson.com. If you haven't been there yet, I'm offering free foundations course, 4 videos going over nutrition, strength and conditioning, restoration, and mindset, my 4 pillars to health, free videos. What can go wrong? Guys, hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.